Hello and welcome to UC Today. My name is Kristian McCann and today's session is avoiding costly continuity, how to stop paying extra to keep critical systems online. And joining me to tell me all about it is Lathan Lewis, Head of Products at Tango Networks. So, Lathan, why do organizations with dual UC platforms and those holding on to aging POTS infrastructure, what do they have in common in terms of their approach to business continuity and where do their patterns of thinking overlap?
Yeah, I think the most common thing is they're just paying too much money for the solution they have. So there's different reasons for the two different solutions there. So I'll take each one separately. So with business continuity, the IT departments in companies that need to have voice communications up 100% of the time is critical to their business. So really, the only solution they have today to maintain that 100% availability is two separate UC systems. So if they're on UC system number one as their primary and something goes down, whether it's the cloud infrastructure, whether it's a bug in a software update, whatever it is, they need the ability to switch over and still have voice. So again, the only way to do that today, separate UC platform. So downsides of that obviously are cost. You have to have the licenses on the second system, even though you're not using it very often. You have to train folks, you have to maintain it. So there's a lot of overhead there. But switching over to POTS, POTS is a little bit different. That's a technology using copper lines for voice. It's been around for decades. Lots of companies still have phones out there. Many of them switch their desk phones, for example, their day-to-day phones over to VoIP. But there's things like call boxes in an elevator, alarm panels, faxes. They're all still using those legacy copper lines. So depending on the country, here in the U.S., it's been going on a while. Other countries, various stages, but pretty much around the world, everybody's moving off of legacy copper POTS lines to VoIP or wireless solutions. So in the U.S., the big driving force now is the FCC's deregulated costs. So now the major service providers that still have copper out there are trying to get rid of them because it costs them too much to maintain. So they're just raising the price slowly on all the customers until the customers feel too much pain and move. So for customers, the decision is they're just going to stay because it was a lot of work and cost until it got painful. And now the pain is here, so they're having to address it.
Okay, so we did speak a lot about cost and the sort of knock-on effects, but if we could just drill down, other than the obvious cost of paying for two systems or paying for an increasing product, what are the costs of maintaining this approach in UC licensing and legacy infrastructure?
Yeah, with the business continuity and the two UC platforms, as mentioned, it's two sets of licenses, one of which you're hardly ever using. It's just there as insurance, but you still have to train people on it. They need to know how to support it, upgrade it, make sure it's available. You may have desk phones or other devices out there that need to be supported. But the other critical thing is just the UX for the employee. So an employee needs to know that if their primary system goes down, how to move over to the other platform. So if the other platform, maybe SSO is not enabled, so they have different passwords, they got to go find their sticky note or wherever they wrote down that password they never use and make sure they can log in. And so they just need to be trained on how to do that. And that's always the weak point of any business continuity plan is making sure your employees know how to actually invoke it and implement it. So I think that's the key downside to that second system approach.
Okay, and what is the underlying assumption that leads organizations to believe they need to continue with this way to maintain business continuity?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the reality is that it really is the only solution today. That there's no other good way of doing it until recently. So technology changes, and the big technology change that I think can address this problem of business continuity is building mobility into your IT workflows, right? So today, you go off and you buy mobile service from a tier one like an AT&T, Verizon, Vodafone, what have you. You get mobile devices for your users, you get a new phone number, but everything's kind of siloed off. You have no control over that mobile device. So the new technology that kind of changes the game is what I like to call mobile network as a service. So this is a standard mobile network, just like AT&T and T and the Vodafone we mentioned, but instead of being siloed, it has APIs in it that are designed to be IT friendly. So I think that the best way to kind of explain this is to give you an example. So if I start as a new employee at a company, I go in the first day, the HR department is going to give me a laptop. They're going to create me an account on, let's say it's Microsoft Teams as the UC platform. With mobile network as a service, they can go a little bit farther. Now that same system can allocate a new mobile subscription for me. It's going to allocate it with my team's business number, not a new number. It's going to be my existing number, and it's going to say I want all the calls that this user makes to be routed via Teams. So when that happens, as an end user, I'll get an email with a QR code. I'll simply click on it. I'll now have a second line on my mobile phone, the one I'm using for my personal use, but it'll be a separate line that goes through the corporate system, completely independent from my personal line. So the benefit to that, just day one, is now I have a device that I have with me all the time that I like to use. It's not a new desk phone. It's not a soft client. It's my mobile device. But my calls can now be routed, business calls can be routed through the platform, get all the features that I have. So maybe there's call recording for compliance, or maybe AI is looking at all the communications for the company. Whatever the use case is, I'm now connected with my mobile device. Now, the key for business continuity now is you have a separate system that's going to stay up even if Teams goes down. So let's say Teams goes down, call comes from a customer into my number. The PSTN provider that owns that number will see that Teams is down, and they simply route to the mobile network instead. And because the mobile network is, self-contained, standalone, independent of Teams, that call is going to get delivered to my mobile. So as an end user, you didn't have to train me how to switch over. I'm just using my device like I always do. Nothing changes. Call still comes in. I might not get that call recording function from Teams, but the actual voice call makes it to me, which is the important piece of the continuity solution.
Okay, so there's a great example of how this mobile connectivity can really keep you online in cases of a Teams outage. How can it also address the continuity challenges, not only with the UC platform failures, but the POTS sunset as well?
Yeah, a lot of what we're hearing from the folks that are addressing the POTS landscape there is, first of all, you have all these applications out there, call boxes, faxes. You don't want to replace those. Those are existing. They work. They do their job. So what you're going to do instead, most likely, is just put an analog telephony adapter in there, an ATA, that's going to convert the analog signal that was going over copper into either VoIP or a cellular link instead. So if you have Ethernet run to that location, you'll probably just use VoIP. It's cheaper, it's simpler. But in the case where that call box or fax, what have you, doesn't already have Ethernet, then you might just want to put a SIM in there and use a cellular network. So when you go that route, what you're really looking for is a SIM that supports voice over LTE. So that's QoS ensured voice over the mobile network, rather than a best effort IoT SIM that's been used in the past. So now that call box, you get stuck in the elevator and you're calling the emergency number, they'll actually be able to hear what you're saying. So VoLTE is a key piece of that. The other key piece that we're hearing in the industry is they want the calls to route through that same UC platform. So now the IT administrators can see calls being made to the emergency number, or wherever they're going, they can track those, manage those, rather than just being, again, siloed off on the mobile network. So again, with the mobile network as a service solution, you can allocate those SIMs, you can assign them to an ATA box, and then you can see and manage those devices from a central place.
So you've told us a lot about some additional capabilities, some additional continuity, even the cost savings. So how would you summarize the business case for transitioning to this modern integrated continuity solution, and how quickly could organizations expect to see a return on their investment as they move away from these expensive redundancy and legacy approaches?
Yeah, great question. So if you look at just using mobile UC, your mobile device connected to UC, whether it's for your primary work or for business continuity, it's almost an immediate saving. So if you have redundant systems, you're going to obviously save the $15 to $50 worth of licensing fees per month for that UC seat. You're going to save the money on the support and operational aspects of all that. So that's kind of a no-brainer savings there that pays back immediately. Even if looking just at the the UC devices, if you're as a new employee in that example, when I came in, instead of having to pay $100, $200 for a new desk phone, I simply allocating a SIM. So there's no upfront CapEx cost for the end subscriber there. And then, again, depending on the service, but with our solution Tango Extend, your expectation for per subscriber per month is down as low as $10 to $15 per user for just voice and messaging through your UC system. So that's cheaper than what you would pay to maintain a desk phone, as an example. So again, the savings there are pretty much immediate. There's no capex. It's just a usage-based monthly service for that. Flipping over the POTS, again, it's if you look at your bills now, they're going up by 2, 3, 4 times for these copper lines that the service providers provide. So, we've seen bills that are north of hundreds of dollars just for one copper line coming in. So again, those are pretty quick payback just by putting in a $50, $100, $200 ATA device, putting either VoIP or cellular in there. You're going to save that monthly cost of the analog. So it's kind of time is right for the POTS replacement in the US and a lot of the EU as well.
What would you say is fundamentally different about when companies either using the POTS system or using this dual UC as part of their continuity? What's fundamentally different when they make this switch to this mobile connectivity solution?
I think it's the bigger opportunity there is building mobility into IT workflows. So, part of it, as we talked about, is just having a device that the end users like and use connected to UC, so the employee experience goes up. But as an IT manager now, I can get events from the mobile network. I know when my employee's traveling. I can see what country they're in. I can see when they attach. I can decide what policies to apply. So if I want to turn off the ability to watch cat videos while he's roaming internationally because I don't want to pay that $5,000 roaming bill, I can do that because I now have complete control over the mobile network. So security perspective, I can stop going from certain sites. So just like if you're on a laptop on my local network, now I can set those same firewall policies on mobile devices that are being used for work. So it's really moving mobility under control of the IT department, like all other applications are, and really breaking down the silos that the current solutions provide.
Excellent. And just to close this off, as you've mentioned that POTS, the copper lines are increasing for companies. We've also seen increases in platform costs. So for an organization that will want to be making the move before these costs start to accumulate or even increase further, what are the first steps you say they should take?
It's just the obvious ones. It's the audit. You got to sit down and look, start with your bills and see what you're being billed for. Find all those POTS devices that are out there that are maybe hidden in a closet or a back shelf that you don't know is there. Once you know which devices you have, you'll need to decide on which ATA devices, or you can replace the whole system with a new modern one. But again, the cheaper, easier route is just to put an ATA device in there. And then you'll decide whether that's VoIP connected if you have Ethernet already available, whether you want to put a cellular SIM in there instead because that's the easier, cheaper approach. And then you need to decide whether you want to do it yourself or if there are managed service providers that will come in and do all this for you as well, and then monitor those devices and make sure everything's up and running. So that's an option. Similar for business continuity, just kind of look on, large organizations might have, multiple UC platforms. So understanding what they're being used for. Is it for primary UC service? Is it for backup? Can you consolidate? Again, building mobility in. Do you really need that second system? And decommissioning where possible.
Excellent. Well, it's been fascinating to talk to you today, Lathan. Thanks for speaking to me.
Thanks, Kristian.
And thank you to the audience for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and comment and subscribe to stay in tune to more great videos like this. We'll see you next time.